Hey, I'm Raymond. You're watching RPAD TV 3000. We have an excellent episode for you today. We are going to talk about the first season of Ahsoka on Disney Plus. With me today is the excellent Paul Semel, veteran video game journalist, former music critic, and all-around cool guy. You're a cool guy, Paul.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so how are you today? What's going on?
I'm good. All is good. I'm in sunny Southern California, and
You are.
the weather is reasonably nice. The tacos are plentiful.
Of course, Paul has an excellent website, paulsemel.com. What is the latest and greatest on your website?
I am currently working on a review of Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
Oh,
And I put up a ton of book stories this week. I feel like I put up something else too. And I may have some other things coming up as well that I can't talk about just yet because I don't know what things are in flux, as they say, as is always the case with reviews, because you don't know, like, are you going to get them? Are you not going to? Oh, I did review the Loki Blu-ray too. That's the thing. And it was very, very cool. So
nice. What were some of the cool special features on that?
They had a whole thing about how, they had the Assembled, which is also on Disney Plus, but they also had like a lot of cool, like, behind the scenes things, talking to the cast and whatnot. A couple of deleted scenes that were sort of interesting, which, I don't know why that stuff isn't up on Disney Plus, but it's not. So
it is not. But if you want more details on the Loki Blu-ray and other cool stories, go to paulsemel.com. Now let's get to the matter at hand, which is Ahsoka Season 1. Of course, many longtime Star Wars fans know Ahsoka from the Clone Wars and from Rebels. But the showrunners here had a difficult task of making the show appeal to people that only watch the live-action Star Wars and not the cartoons, while keeping fans that know and love Ahsoka from the Clone Wars and Rebels happy. How did they do with that balancing act, in your opinion?
I don't think they did a good job. I mean, it's impossible for me to tell because I did watch Rebels. So I as did you, and I connected. So for me, I knew all this stuff. But I saw so many articles online over the last couple of weeks where it was like, we're explaining this, we're explaining that.
Right.
That I think that they... But then again, I don't know. Maybe people kind of just do those kind of articles anyway sometimes. So, like, I don't really know. It doesn't seem like they did a great job of explaining some of this stuff. But then again, I also wonder how much of that stuff really people needed to be explained, or whether it was more just like, I wonder what that was a reference to. Like, I think you could. It seems to me from watching the show, you could absolutely follow what was going on, and it would make sense, and it would fit in with the live action stuff.
Right.
It was just it was like for example, like, if you didn't watch Rebels, you wouldn't know who Ezra was.
Right.
And you wouldn't understand what was the importance of getting Ezra back. But at the same time, if you might just be like, oh, okay, I don't know who Ezra is, but clearly he's important. So all right.
And even Thrawn, you wouldn't know unless you read the books or watched Rebels.
Right.
And Thrawn, to me, is one of the coolest characters in Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
So
that's another example of somebody where, like, you wouldn't necessarily know what the significance of Thrawn was, but just from watching the show, you'd go, okay, clearly he's important. Clearly he's somebody who can pull together the remnants of the Empire and start a new version of it. So
right. Or were people wondering, who is this fat blue Elon Musk guy? And why is he fighting like Ahsoka? I don't know. So do you have any friends that didn't watch the cartoons but did watch the show?
No.
So my brother did not watch the cartoons, but he enjoyed the show. But I'm also sure some of the things didn't have as much of an impact, like Oh, we are going to have spoilers here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
So that is out the window. We cannot have this discussion without it. And so things like the Mortis gods, like Ezra, like you said, even who Sabine Wren is, things like that, or even how Anakin has changed. To my brother, Anakin is still that whiny guy that talks about sand, and they don't know, how he was in the Clone Wars, and how that redefined his character.
Well, you could also make the argument that if all you've ever seen are the 9 movies, you'd be confused by certain things. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Like, or if you only ever watched the first 3 movies, you'd have no fucking clue what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, right. So I mean, yeah, if you had watched everything, then you would know more. I did think it was helpful. I don't know what they put in there, but there was a thing on Disney Plus where they said, hey, here's a bunch of Rebels episodes to watch to get you caught up.
Right.
And I don't know what was in that, but like knowing, there was a whole bunch in there. So I think that it was probably pretty comprehensive for getting people up to speed.
I did one of those too, and I think mine was only like 12 minutes. So go look back for that video if you want more background on the Ahsoka character.
Right. I mean, it's easy enough to find this stuff out. I mean,
yeah. But I mean, there's a lot. Ahsoka has been probably the most written about character in TV now. I mean, even more so than the original trilogy people, because they have so much content from the cartoons, comics, books, and now a live action series. So she has become one of the most vital Star Wars characters, and I am all for it.
Yeah, she's basically the most vital Star Wars character that people don't necessarily know, because
kind of strange, huh? Because
she's never been in any of the movies.
Right. Well, although her voice was in the last one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hell, my voice could have been in that scene and you wouldn't have known.
Wait, that wasn't you?
No.
It was you the whole time.
No, it was AI generated.
So a few weeks ago, we discussed the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka season 1, and I asked you the question, is this really Ahsoka's show, or is it Sabine's show, or is it Rebels season 5? Now that it is all said and done, I don't think this was Ahsoka's show. To me, this is more of a Sabine story than a Rebels season 5 and then Ahsoka.
I don't agree with that. I think it was Ahsoka's show, but not by much. I think it was almost like the Ahsoka show featuring Sabine, if you will. I don't think that it was Rebel season 5, because I think if there had been a Rebel season 5, then Rebel season 4 would have ended differently, and Rebel season 5 would have been, what did these people do at the same time that A New Hope is happening? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I think Rebel season 5 would have followed the cast of the 5, 6, 7 seasons rather, would have followed, where were they during, Hoth? Where were they during the rest of Empire and whatnot, explaining, why were they actually at the Battle of Endor or not? I think that's what the subsequent seasons of Rebels would have shown, is what did these other people do? They're also, it also, like, as I think we're going to talk about, Zeb wasn't in this.
Yeah.
So, and Hera was much less of a central character, especially in the latter half of the season.
Right.
It was much more of a supporting character. So that's why I don't think it was Rebels season.
Right. I mean,
it was almost like Frasier to Cheers in a weird way, like a spin-off show.
To me, Sabine had the more meaningful story arcs and scenes. I mean, Ahsoka had the World Between Worlds episode, which I think was her best episode because it dealt with her past in the Clone Wars. But for the rest of it, I thought Sabine was the more fascinating character for the good guys.
I thought they both went through a nice arc in the show, and the transition to Ahsoka the White, as I like refer to her, and especially like you mentioned that when you see young Ahsoka, the little kid, played by young Gamora,
who was also in the Barbie movie.
Really? Oh, okay. Was she young Barbie in that?
No, she was the. Did you see the Barbie?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it to come on cable.
You should. It's cable. How old are you?
I'm 55. That's why I watch movies on cable.
But yeah, she's the young girl in the Barbie movie, and she is also in the upcoming Borderlands movie as Tiny Tina.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
She is a nerd goddess already. I think.
I know, but I'm just trying to imagine her as Tiny Tina, who is like is basically like a teenage version of Harley Quinn from the Harley Quinn cartoon. So
much harsher character than young Gamora.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture like that cute little kid like swearing like Tommy Lee, and that'll be interesting.
It could be kind of how Chloe Moretz was in Kick-Ass. So maybe.
Oh, that's except that I'd never seen Chloe Grace Moretz before Kick-Ass, so I didn't have any preconceived notions about her. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Now, that's actually a good question for the audience out there. Whether you're watching this live or watching the replay, did you think this was Ahsoka's show? Please leave a comment when you have a chance. Now, let's talk about the end.
Okay.
A lot of people are split on the finale. Do you think they stuck the landing on this one? Oh, I'm totally not using my banners either. That's so bad.
I think it was a good ending to season 1. It was not a good ending to the series, if you will.
I was expecting that.
What, Marcus's comment?
Yes, I know Marcus did not like the finale.
Right.
Because of the cliffhangers.
There was a lot of cliffhangers. It left a lot on the table, but then again, so did Andor season 1. You know?
Right.
I think so did Mandalorian season 1, although season 2 felt like a finale.
It did. I mean, and even season 3 had they lived happily ever after in their little house kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Carlos thought it was Rebel season 4, even though season 4 already exists. I don't know how that works.
Well, Carlos is in a different multiverse than us, so.
Damn.
So, sorry. Brought back to Loki, but yeah, I thought it was a good ending, but yeah, it did leave a lot on the table, and I understand why people don't like that.
Right.
You know.
I know you did, man. I know you meant season 5. I'm just teasing.
Yeah. So.
I liked the finale. I didn't like it as much as episodes 4, 5, and 6, which is for where it peaked for me. But I liked it, and part of it is because I watched the Clone Wars, like seeing Balin on top of the statue of the Mortis gods, seeing Morai flying around in the background. That was big for me because Ahsoka seeing Morai, it almost gave her a sense of, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. It doesn't matter that I'm stuck on planet Peridia, which I kept calling planet Perineum because it's funnier. So stuff like that. It just fit in with me. Although some of the things in the finale, I didn't like how Morgan Elsbeth was transformed into a Night Sister by apparently just putting on crappy makeup. And then all of a sudden, I'm a Night Sister now. Like, give me a sword. If someone hasn't watched Rebels or Clones, then totally pointless. That might be a bit much, but I can definitely see how it's definitely not as impactful. So I agree to an extent. What do you make of that, Paul?
I don't agree with it, but I do think its relevance in the larger picture will become much more apparent when all of this arc is done, when everything leading up to and including the movie Heir to the Empire happens. I think then it's like we've been saying about the Marvel stuff. Like a lot of the Marvel stuff, you're like, what the hell? But I think that like when it's all said and done, you're going to go, okay.
Right. We shall see.
Yeah, I think.
Marcus says it wasn't as enjoyable as Rebels, but few things are, my friend. I mean, that's such a high bar for me that it's hard to say. Now, one of the things that I love about Star Wars fans is that they are so passionate about the show that after each episode they jump to conclusions. They make up all these elaborate theories. Some of them were funny. Like some of them were like, oh, Marok is totally like Ezra hypnotized by Thrawn. In the World Between Worlds, oh, that wasn't really Anakin. That was Palpatine manipulating the Force. When they found Ezra on planet Perineum, they were like, that's not really Ezra. That's like a fake clone Ezra that Thrawn put there. And a lot of these theories were pretty big leaps, and none of them made sense to me, but I love the passion that Star Wars fans have.
Right.
What did you make of these theories?
Well, first and foremost, I absolutely believe that Taylor Swift is dating that football player. I see no reason why she would fake that. So that's the stupid conspiracy theory.
That guy sucks. I'm so jealous.
I mean, the only one that I ever heard was the one, the like you mentioned, like the guy was Ezra, or
Marok.
that guy was whoever, this or that or whatever. And then of course he turned out to be none of those things, which I kind of liked. Although I would have liked to know what the heck he actually was. Although I guess
he was just like a reanimated by the Night Sisters. Yeah,
I guess so. I guess that's what they kind of revealed in that last episode, that he was one of the zombie guys, I guess. I never heard any of the other ones, but like,
yeah, I mean, I spend a lot more time on Reddit than you do, so I read a lot.
I don't spend any time on Reddit, so
But I loved that after so many people, even on YouTube, not just Reddit, they were like, "Oh, Marok is totally Ezra," and I'm like, "No, he's just a bag of green gas." I thought that was so funny to me.
Yeah. I just don't think I mean, you can make up all this. I mean, like, after a while, it's kind of like noise. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
I agree. So, Marcus, I hope you are alive to see the end of the Filoni. I'm not going to call it a wank fest, because Filoni, I think, is the best Star Wars creator in the last decade. I love the man, even though he is obsessed with wolves. And apparently asses. There were a lot of ass shots in this series of Sabine and Hera. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that. No.
My friend Anthony Parisi also noticed it. Maybe we're just pervs that like asses, but it seems kind of gratuitous. I'm like, come on. I like what's her name? Natasha Lizzo Bordello.
Gogo Bordello, yeah.
No, it's Natasha Lou Bordizzo.
Yeah.
I think she's a beautiful woman, but I did not need to see that many ass shots of her in a Star Wars series.
I went to go see a screening of some stupid movie in which Jessica Biel is a fighter pilot, and like there's a super AI advanced plane. And
this sounds awesomely stupid.
It was really stupid. But there's a scene of her in a bikini, and I remember there was this long lingering shot of her butt. And for whatever reason, in between the time when the screening happened and the movie actually came out, they cut that scene down. And I just remember sitting in the screening room and being like, this has gone on for like a good minute and a half. Like this, somebody call the editor.
But just the conceit of that concept is astounding to me. It reminds me of that Bond movie where Denise Richards was a nuclear physicist. I'm like, no, that's
God,
I can't. We have a couple of comments from Marcus. Ezra is the true heir to the Empire. He did have glorious hair. Although I was waiting for Fox to be like, whoa, why does Ezra look like Bin Laden now? Or I'm like, dude, he's stuck on planet Perineum, living with the cute snail people. It's not like they have barbers and stylists on every corner. I think he looks good. Now, Marcus is not a fan of the interconnectivity, and it's taking Star Wars down. I disagree. I loved the Star Wars live action shows, with the exception of Book of Boba Fett, which it had some entertaining moments, but was just not good in general. I mean, when the best part of that series is the Mandalorian, then you have problems. So phase 4, yeah, I can see that point, but I don't think it is quite that bad.
Well, I know that people are getting a little annoyed. Like people got kind of annoyed at seeing C-3PO, and I'm like,
oh, did they?
Yeah. Like
No.
people were weird. Like there were some people who loved it, but some people were weirdly annoyed. And it's kind of like, well, look, I get it.
I mean, it's correct for the time period.
Yeah.
Though.
It wasn't like stunt casting.
Yeah.
In my mind, it makes sense, especially because had she been alive, that they would have tried to get
Leia.
Carrie Fisher to show up and be there, or maybe do like some kind of like broadcast video like of her.
It's interesting. Disney is since Solo, Disney is very against recasting, but I think at some point you kind of need to flesh these stories out, at least for some of the characters.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because they claim that they don't want to recast anything, but they're also going to make a whatchamacallit show. Oh God, the Donald Glover show. Why am I drawing to blank on the
Lando?
Yeah, Lando. Thank you. I had a brain freeze there.
It's not the Billy D. Williams show.
Yeah. I don't think Billy D's going to be in it. I think it's Donald Glover's going to do a Lando show. So
yes, Lando has one of my favorite lines of all time that in my 20s, I used to bust out randomly at bars with my friends, and I'd pretend I was hitting on them, and I'd be like, "You truly belong with us amongst the clouds." Like, it's so cheesy and stupid, but
yeah, but he pulled it off.
Yes, well, Billy D can pull that off. Although the thing with the Donald Glover version of Lando is his robot fetish, which I find fascinating, and I hope they go more hardcore with that.
Yeah.
If Disney had done a better job with Solo, I am sure recasting wouldn't be an issue.
I would disagree with that. I
disagree with that too.
If the movie had done better, they wouldn't have an issue with the recasting.
And I don't think it was what's the actor's name?
Eldritch or something like that.
Aldrich, like Heidenreich. Heidenreich's a wrestler, but I know that's not his name. I think the problem with Solo, the movie, is that it came out like, I think it was 6 months after the last Star Wars movie. So I think it was more of a timing thing than the quality of the movie itself.
Yeah, I would agree with that, which is why I think it's gotten people who've now seen it like after the fact seem to really, really dig it. And it's gained in appreciation.
I agree. Marcus adds, Billy D is a smooth pimp who loves the ladies. Well, apparently he loves the robot ladies, which is that was such a weird quirk they introduced, and I am all for it. Now, moving on, which actors had standout performances for you, Paul, and for you in the audience?
Well, David Tennant, of course, but David Tennant is always super cool.
He's good in everything, pretty much.
And I would say the same thing about Rosario Dawson. Rosario Dawson is always really cool. So for me, the two that stuck out were Ray Stevens, largely because I know I've seen him in things, but he's never kind of struck with me. And like whenever I thought of him before, all I could think about was, oh yeah, he was in that really crappy Punisher movie.
Right. And it's Stevenson, by the way, not
Stevenson. Sorry. And he looks so completely different from that like it may as well have been somebody different. But he was really, really good. And I want to make sure I'm going to mispronounce her name. Ivana Sakno.
Yeah.
Like Shinhati. She was really, really good too. I think that she was really, really good with him. I think the two of them, I think like on their own, they wouldn't have been as good, but together they made a really cool and interesting team and added to each other's mystique and stuff. And so,
right.
Yeah. And so those are the two that stood out for me.
More like Shin Hati. So, or as I called them in our last chat about this, Fat Punisher and fake Scarlett Johansson. So I don't know, how old is that? Isn't that Punisher movie like 15 years ago or something like that?
It's a while ago, yeah.
So
it may even be more than that because I think it may predate the entire MCU, which means it was
Oh, wow.
before the Hulk.
Oh, wow. So yeah, I mean, that's a lot of time and a lot of pounds later. So
Yeah,
of course he's going to look different.
yeah,
He definitely stood out for me, both his performance and the way his character was written. I liked that he was the down the middle guy and be like, both you Sith and Jedi suck. I love that aspect of him. He was just had a very powerful presence, very unique, because so much of Star Wars is, being just having two sides of a coin, and there are not two sides to every story. A story can have 4 or 5, 6 sides, and I loved that Balin was doing his own thing. And a lot of people compared him to Daenerys in Game of Thrones, on how she wanted to break the wheel and break that whole system of ruling.
right.
And Balin seems like he wanted to break this whole binary system of Sith and Jedi. Right. Marcus, thank you for watching, and we will see you soon. I will see you next week, where we'll talk more about comic book stuff on the Beer Pad, a show starring Marcus Beer, supported by me. I loved Sabine as well. I love Natasha from, I saw her in that movie with Harry Potter with the guns stapled to his hand, Guns Akimbo. Have you seen that? It's so weird.
I have not seen that, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's if you haven't seen it, guys, Daniel Radcliffe plays pretty much a hapless slacker dude who somehow gets abducted, gets these guns pretty much nailed to his hands, and has to participate in this reality survival show. And Natasha Lizzo Bordello, I'm just going to keep calling her that. She has technicolored, beautiful hair in that show. So I thought, hey, this is perfect for Sabine. But I love the Sabine character, and I think she did it justice. The gentleman that played Ezra, I thought he absolutely nailed it in terms of his voice, the cadence of his speaking. I thought he was absolutely older Ezra. And you mentioned Rosario, and I usually love her in everything, but in this one, not as much as in her other stuff. She did well, but I thought the other characters stood out more than she did. To me, I still think she's fantastic and awesome, but I don't know. I wasn't as impressed with her.
Interesting.
As she was in other adventures. And of course, we had Morgan Elsbeth, played by a Filipino woman. That is very cool. Diana Lee Inosanto. Her father was a legendary martial arts instructor, traveled the world, learning different martial arts and teaching a lot of the Filipino martial arts to Americans. And her godfather is Bruce Lee. I think he did a few things in martial arts movie as well. So very cool background, very cool woman. So I'm glad. I was kind of bummed that she got killed off because I wanted to see more of her. But I thought she did really well.
Yeah, and she went out well. I mean, you don't want to die in a cheap death.
I don't know. I think, didn't Sam Jackson say like, yeah, I don't mind being killed, but I don't want to go out like a bitch?
He said that to George Lucas. He basically, like, when they were doing the movies, he was like, I want a purple lightsaber. And George was like, okay. And then years later, he said, I know I have to die. I just don't want to go out like a bitch. And George Lucas was like, okay. You
will not go out like a bitch, Sam.
Yeah.
Now, Paul,
I think that Lucas learned his lesson from killing off Boba Fett the way he did. Because he always said he kind of regretted killing off Boba Fett the way he did. So
that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
Excellent point, Paul. Paul, are you feeling generous today?
I am always generous. I'm generous with my love. I am generous with my time. I am generous with the tipping.
Well, today I am going to be generous with Nintendo Switch game codes, thanks to my friends at Novi Unlimited. Let's check out this video. Hey guys, for this episode of RPAD TV 3000, I am giving away 3 copies of CounterAttack Uprising for Nintendo Switch. My friends at Novi Unlimited were kind enough to provide these game codes. CounterAttack Uprising is a space shooter that, well, let's take a look at the trailer. Should I do voiceover? No, I'm totally doing voiceover. So check this out. Some people call these shooters, shmups, bullet hell, but I call it bullet heaven. I would totally pick random ship. That's just my style. But this game looks awesome. It looks intense, action-packed, thrilling. And my reflexes are probably too old to do well in this game, which is why you should win a copy of it. To win a copy of CounterAttack Uprising for Nintendo Switch, all you have to do is subscribe to the RPAD TV Facebook page and leave a comment on this thread. It's as simple as that. Big thanks again to Novi Unlimited for providing these codes. And now back to our show. This game is fun and it's cool and you can shoot things. So please subscribe.
I was getting flashbacks to like high school.
Like, I thought you were going to say, yeah, I was getting flashbacks to Nam.
No. I was getting flashbacks to like going to the Fun and Games arcade at the Willowbrook Mall in New Jersey and playing like original games, the games that look, like that, and lasting maybe like 3 minutes before You
hear that, ladies? Paul can last 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, again, I am a white guy.
See? Do you like how I didn't shave when I made that video and I shaved to show the passage of time? And I changed shirts like 45 minutes ago. Now, this next question, and I do not want to be indelicate, but both you and I were really impressed with Ray Stevenson's performance, as were a lot of critics and fans. But I have to ask, are we overrating his performance because he died this year? Much the same way that when Heath Ledger died, he maybe got overpraised for his performance in The Dark Knight as the Joker. And as the years pass and you could look back, people were like, yeah, maybe it wasn't as good as we said at the time. Do you think maybe 2 or 3 years from now, we'll be looking back at like, maybe we kind of overrated the Balin Skull character?
I wouldn't say that we're overrating it. Or even that we overrated Heath Ledger, but maybe under criticized, if you will.
That is fair.
I think that there is a feeling that nobody wants to say anything bad about it because he died. In the same way that nobody wanted to say anything about Heath Ledger when he died.
Yeah.
In the same way, let's be honest, people don't like it when you say anything bad about somebody after they die. I mean, like you look at Nixon. I mean, people got annoyed when you pointed out bad things that Nixon did.
Well, and more recently, I think Kobe Bryant,
Kobe Bryant. Like people, like if you pointed out some of the things that Kobe Bryant did that were not so cool around the time that he died, people got super pissy. People get weird about that stuff.
Right. Like Ari Shaffir, the stand-up comedian, made a Kobe joke shortly after his death, and he got a ton of heat for it. And he's a comedian. A lot of comedians, they're supposed to push the boundaries in that arena. So I did not agree with what happened to him.
Yeah.
You don't have to think the joke is funny, but you don't go after the guy the way that people went after him. I mean, that's kind of their lane. And I think that's changed a lot.
I think it's somewhat changed. It's somewhat changed a little bit, but like it's still, especially in the days after somebody dies, like nobody wants to hear anything bad about the person. Unless the person was a complete total like scumbag. Do you know what I mean? Like, like if a serial killer like when Jeffrey Dahmer got killed in prison, like nobody was like, oh, don't say anything bad about him. He's somebody's son. No, they were like, yeah.
Hey, it's our old friend, Greg Orlando.
Oh, hey, Greg.
Hey, Greg. People were looking for something to like with Ahsoka. There was a lot of things to like with Ahsoka. And love, actually. But yeah, I think you said it much better than I was thinking it. Under criticized is probably the best way to say it. So yeah. I do appreciate that. Speaking of in the opposite direction, and someone who was over criticized perhaps at the time, Hayden Christensen. He
Yeah.
seems to be going on a victory tour between his appearances on Obi-Wan and this series. And this is especially for people that did not watch the cartoons. They don't know how cool and deep and developed Anakin Skywalker became. They still think of, I hate sand, so
Right.
how are you enjoying his victory lap that he's taking?
Okay. I am not one of those people that hated the prequels.
Same.
I am not one of those people who thought that it destroyed my childhood. And I actually think that some of the negativity towards it, vis-a-vis it destroyed my childhood, was actually kind of immature in the way people said it. So for me, I liked I shouldn't say I loved, because the first one is touch and go. But I really, really liked the prequels. I liked a lot of things that happened in the prequels. I love the scope. I love how they told a single story, and I liked a lot of the characters in it. So seeing him back and getting a chance to I don't want to say getting a chance to redeem himself, because he didn't need to do that, but like to see him. I guess what I'm trying to say is for Hayden Christensen, I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
That he's gotten this chance, because I think he's even said that he thought so many people that hated him, and now he's getting all this love, and he's like, oh, okay, so there were people who appreciated it.
Right. And those ruined my childhood people, as you described them, I think they blamed him when maybe they should have been blaming George Lucas or blaming the writers, because I think his performance, he's supposed to be angsty teenager.
Right.
And that came through, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to pick on him. The little kid in the first one was not great.
Yeah. Well, that's a sad story. If you want to, what's his name? Jake something.
I don't remember.
I feel bad.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I liked that they brought Anakin back. I think it was important for them to bring him back, because he's such a central figure to Ahsoka's story.
Oh yeah.
It didn't seem like, I mean, it's kind of the same thing you could say about Obi-Wan. Like he needed to be an Obi-Wan because he's such a central part of Obi-Wan's life at that point,
Yes.
And having him come back as Darth Vader in that, really, that was one of the highlights of that show for me. So
Jake Lloyd,
thank
you, Greg, and thank you, Carlos, who also chimed in.
Yeah. We should also mention that the guy who played Jar Jar got just an immense amount of grief.
Oh my God, yeah.
And again, didn't
Ahmad Best? Did I get that?
Ahmad Best, who by all accounts from people I know who've met him and worked with him, is just the nicest, sweetest guy, and just got an intense amount of shit from people because of Jar Jar.
I remember a few interviews with Ewan McGregor where he said he loved working with Ahmad, and he felt horrible about how some of the fans were going after him.
Right. Yeah. So,
Paul, is that where you're saying Anakin touched everyone? I hope it wasn't inappropriate touching.
Carlos, you do know the FBI watches this show, right?
I don't think they do. For all 12 of you, no.
Yeah, well, 11 of them are in the FBI, so yeah.
Yeah, I am happy for Hayden Christensen, and I loved his, was it episode 5? It was the World Between World episode?
I think so.
Or was that 6? I forget. Might be 6. But yeah, I thought that episode ruled, and he did well. And I'm just so thrilled for him that he is being appreciated.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about favorite moments in season 1. For me, it was the two big reunions, having Ezra being reunited with Sabine, and at the last episode, when Ezra met up with Hera, I just thought that was so powerful, and I loved both of those scenes so much, just because Rebels is my favorite Star Wars thing since the original trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, those both of those moments were really, really good, and well earned, as they say. You know, I love that Ezra wore a stormtrooper's uniform.
That's what he does.
You know, and he comes out of the thing, and everyone's like there's literally like 30 guys with guns, and then he's like, you know, I thought that was really, really cool. There's a lot of little things in the show that I thought were really, really cool. There was one thing that I thought was absolutely so funny that at the time I rewound, made sure to write it down.
Oh.
And it was the fact that the last episode was titled The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of the World Between Worlds was actually taken because isn't it the Wardrobe Between Worlds in the book?
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, that's where he took it from.
Yeah.
So that I love those sections.
We talked so much about the connections between the Ahsoka show and the Lord of the Rings,
of which there are many.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you get to that last episode, and Balin basically he ends up in Gondor.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This blows my mind because like, is Middle Earth like in the Star Wars universe, and like, does that mean that Saruman has a twin brother who's Count Dooku, and you know,
when he sees that light at the end in the finale, and people on Reddit were like, it's like Gondor calls and Balin's soul will answer.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was cool. I wrote some things down. I thought another thing that I really, really enjoyed throughout the show was the banter between David Tennant's character and basically everybody else.
Yeah.
Like,
Sabine, you suck at the Force.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a snappiness to him that was really, really funny, and it is interesting to me how some of the most interesting characters in Star Wars have been droids.
Oh yeah,
whether it's him, whether it's the one that Lando Calrissian wanted to have sex with, who was voiced by the Phoebe Waller-Bridge. R2-D2 is probably my favorite character, and he just speaks and beeps.
But I mean, Chopper is so much better than R2.
Chopper is hilarious,
and he's killed way more people.
He's killed. Yeah, we all know he's killed like way too many people.
He's the best droid war criminal.
Yeah,
AP5, I love. I was bummed we didn't get to see AP5.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of them. I mean, yeah. Oh, and that scene. There's the courtroom scene, and somebody says something about C-3PO being just a droid, and like
Chopper was pissed.
Chopper was about to like go off.
Like, do you know how many people I killed? God damn it!
I mean, that was just great. I thought the fights were really, really good. I said this before in the earlier episode we did, that the fight that Ahsoka has in the very first episode was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But even throughout the show, like all the ones she had with Balin were really cool. The one she has at the end with Morgan was super cool.
Yeah.
Like, the lightsaber fight she has. And I also really liked Sabine fighting, especially in that last episode where she was using both a blaster and a lightsaber.
Yeah. That's what I wanted for Sabine. Like in the early episode, she was kind of awkward with just using the lightsaber, and I'm like, that's not what Mandalorians do. I want them to kick ass and use the flamethrower and the guns and the ripcord and all that.
Yeah, I think that's what she needs to do. Is she needs to basically, how can I be a Jedi but also shoot things? And
then when she's done kicking ass, make a mural about it. So that's what I want from Sabine.
Yeah.
Now, Carlos says one of my favorite parts was Ezra. Yes. One of my favorite parts was when Ezra was building a lightsaber and Hu Yang told him he held on to a hilt in case he needed a spare. And the Reddit fans saw that. They noticed that it was Kanan's lightsaber. So there was speculation because they showed it in the trailer, and people were speculating that there would be a Force ghost of Kanan. But no, Hu Yang just had Kanan's spare parts.
Mm.
Now, there is a funny scene that I want to show you.
Okay.
And we won't have sound while this is playing, so please keep that in mind. But It is in one of the last battles. Ahsoka has this errant reflection. I'm going to play it on loop so we can watch it a few times.
Okay.
Or actually, can you hear us? Now we're muted. Haha. We are not muted, but look at that. It goes right in.
That looks like a TikTok dance.
So she deflects the blaster bolt right into Sabine's face. So, thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
That wasn't the greatest. I love the Clone Wars flashback because when you see it in animation, you don't realize how messed up it is to be sending young teenagers.
Yeah.
So seeing an actual young person playing that role, I'm like, this is fucked up. Like,
yeah.
So
yeah.
I never really thought about that. You know, I knew she was young when I was watching Clone Wars, but it didn't have the same impact as seeing it in live action.
No. And you're not alone in that. There were a lot of people who were like, oh.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I loved seeing Lothal in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because we spent so much time there in Rebels. And seeing Clancy Brown in anything, really.
Yeah.
He's so awesome. And
the Loth cats. And
I want a Loth cat. But I want a Purgle. Do they count as people? The Noti? I mean, can you have them as pets?
I think they count as people. They talk and
damn. So that would be slavery.
Yeah, that would. Yeah.
How about indentured servitude?
Sex trafficking, depending on what you do with them, I suppose.
How do they put on their clothes? Because they have those big shells. Like, do the shells come off?
I don't know. Maybe the clothes don't go all the way around. Maybe they tie on like a bikini.
They're all naked in the back.
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the shells come off and they put the. I don't know.
If you have any theories on the Noti and how they wear clothes, please leave a comment.
Well, I mean, you know, hermit crabs go into a shell and use it, but I don't know whether turtles are like attached.
Well,
I think they are.
Yeah, and they can't get out without dying, right?
Yeah, I think turtles are attached. So, and same with snails, and these things are kind of like snails.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So it would make sense that like you would maybe tie tie something around your neck and then maybe tie it around your waist or something. I don't know.
More of my favorite things, like Julie Andrews once sang. I loved seeing the Mortis gods and the world between worlds. So these elements from Clone Wars and Rebels were such a big part of reimagining the Force, and I love what Filoni is doing with them, and I cannot wait to see more of that. But I am skipping ahead. Let's talk about things we didn't necessarily like about Ahsoka season 1. We'd mentioned Zeb. I was very sad not to see Zeb. I know we saw him in The Mandalorian season 3, but he is such a big part of the Rebels crew, and I can't wait to see him reunited with Ezra, and I'm disappointed it didn't happen in this series. I also was hoping to see him and Callus together, confirming that they are in fact a couple, but also just because Callus has like the best sideburns ever, and I wanted to see how they can pull that off in real life.
I was disappointed not to see Zeb, but I also kind of realized that if Zeb wasn't in it, there must be a reason.
Thing is, budget. CG is expensive, and they're spending a lot on this already.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if they really wanted to have him in it, like they would have had him in it. But I also can't figure out. I couldn't figure out where he would have fit into the story, except in a kind of in a sort of a guest starring role, if you will.
Right.
Like he was in The Mandalorian. Like, I don't see him fitting in.
Oh, yeah. I didn't necessarily need him to have his own storyline or anything, but even in the finale, if he was one of the guys pointing the guns at Ezra, that would have made sense for me. Carlos says, no Zeb, no Rex, no Hondo. I love Hondo, too. Hondo's awesome.
Yeah.
He was also kind of old. Would he be dead by now? I don't know.
Hondo?
Yeah.
We have no idea because we don't know how long his species lives.
That is true.
I mean, don't forget, Chewbacca can live to be like 300-400 years. It was like 800 or something.
No Rex. We saw flashback Rex, but I guess you wanted to see modern Rex, who would just be Tamura Morrison.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been cool.
I also really was thinking they were going to do this, and I'm a little disappointed they didn't. That we didn't get to see any of the voice actors from Rebels.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm surprised. I was sort of surprised they weren't in that courtroom scene. Like, I wouldn't have wanted them to talk, because then that kind of gets weird. But like I was surprised they weren't kind of just sitting there, and you know what I mean, like, in the courtroom scene, just kind of hanging out. And
but even Matt, who plays Anakin in Clone Wars, he was in Mando season 2, was just like the random shuttle pilot. So yeah, that would have been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to have like, Ashley Eckstein just sort of sitting there, like,
yeah, yeah, the courtroom scene would have been perfect for it. I mean, personally, there's not a lot I did not love about this series.
There's one thing in particular for me, and I said this to you last time, which is I don't think as much as I appreciated her performance, I thought she was good. I don't think the woman who played Hera was old enough. I think that, I mean, because Hera in the original cartoon was the mom of the group, and she was always older than Sabine. She was older than Ezra, obviously.
Was she better than Ezra?
No, don't bring that up. But I felt that she needed to be played by an older actress.
How old is Mary Elizabeth Winstead, or as I call her, Ramona Flowers?
I think she's like in her early 30s, and she is a mom, but she's a mom of a very small little kid,
right?
Who, by the way, the dad is
Obi-Wan,
which is funny enough. But yeah, I think you needed somebody like somebody who could have been not old enough to be Ezra's mom, but old enough to be
right, maybe 10 years older. You're saying,
10 or 20 years older, like somebody who's like middle aged. Like,
I'm not sure she's as young as you think. Let's see.
Or she certainly seems it.
Let's see what the Google tells us. She is 38.
So she doesn't look 38.
Yeah.
She looks 28.
I mean, and she's also Twi'lek, so I don't know what a middle-aged Twi'lek is.
True, but except that in Rebels we meet her dad, and her dad clearly had face lines and stuff, wrinkles. So
we met him in Clone Wars too.
Right, true. Well, he was younger in Clone Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he needed to have somebody who was like, 45, 50 years old in that role. I keep thinking like somebody, I don't think she would have been good for it, but the mom on Gilmore Girls, like somebody that age. I don't think she would have been good, because she's just, as much as I love her, she wouldn't have been right for the role, but somebody of that age.
Right. I totally understand.
Not Helen Mirren.
No, that's
that, far.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Now,
but
Marcus,
somebody who exudes a mom vibe.
I totally understand what you mean. I don't know. I just would love someone to be like, "Hey, Ezra, who's that? Your mom?" So Marcus, who was off eating dinner, he had mentioned to me that he found some of the pacing slow. I didn't get that. I enjoyed the ride very much. How did you feel about the pacing?
Well, considering I never thought of it until just now, I was fine with it. But I wonder. I don't know. I think I'm sometimes immune to that, because I grew up watching like sci-fi movies in the 70s. I mean, you go back and watch the original A New Star Wars, A New Hope, and literally, like, if that movie came out now, they would have condensed that Jedi and Empire into one movie.
That sounds terrible.
I know, but they would have done it. But that's what, it would have been that they would have, stuck that much in. And, I grew up watching, Logan's Run and Soylent Green, and those movies and 2001. I mean, that movie moves at a snail's pace. I mean, I think there's like an 18-minute overture in the beginning. there's like nothing on screen. It's just like 18 minutes of black classical music, and you're like, okay.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we both disagree with Marcus there, but I also wonder if it's a byproduct of us being such big Clone Wars and Rebels fans.
Probably.
Marcus did not watch Clone Wars. We did get him to watch Rebels. So some of the things that we're into are meaningless to people who did not watch Clone Wars, like, seeing the Mortis gods, that means nothing to Balin is just standing on these random statues of Gondor. So I don't know. Now, season 2, which has not been confirmed. I really hope it
happens.
Denied. Correct. But right now, you could write the scripts for season 2. There's nobody to act in them right now. But if season 2 happens, Paul, what would you like to see?
Well, I would like all the questions answered, of course. I'd like to find out. I'd actually really like to find out what the heck is the relationship between Shin and Balin, because they had a really interesting connection.
Right.
And what were they up to? What was Balin up to? What's Shin going to be up to now that she's stuck on this world? Obviously, I'd like to see Zeb turn up.
With his husband, Callus.
Yeah. I would also like to see how it connects back to Mandalorian, because we know it's going to. I think before we get Ahsoka season 2, we're getting Skeleton Crew.
Right.
So it's hard for me because I'm not really sure where that fits into everything, except that it does. So I'd like to see somehow how that all connects.
We have Andor season 2, which ties in not at all to this, but in terms of when the show would be released, this pushes things further. And of course, we have Filoni's movie, which is the end goal of all of this.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, because we also don't know if there's a Mandalorian season 4. Is there going to be a Boba Fett season 2? Is there going to be something else that comes into this? And,
right.
I don't know.
Do you have any theories or guesses?
I think that you will get Skeleton Crew, and then Ahsoka 2, and then Mando 4, and then the movie.
I was speaking more in terms of the Ahsoka characters. And
well, I mean, the obvious thing is her and Sabine are going to find their way back.
Right.
I think that Sabine will go through some training and become even more of a Mandalorian / Jedi than she was at the end.
Right.
There will be, I think, a confrontation between them and Shin Hati. I just don't know what they do with Balin, given that Ray Stevenson is dead.
Right. And it seems like his arc was too big to just write off camera. You have to recast,
I guess, or you just never deal with it. You just sort of go.
I don't know,
right.
Because I think it's all tied together. This is total speculation, but it seems like Balin was trying to either get in touch with the Mortis gods or Abeloth, who is the mother in that deity realm, and he wants to reset the whole damn thing, possibly using the world between worlds. I think Thrawn's going to kick all kinds of ass in the known galaxy. Sabine and Ahsoka, after taking care of Balin, will get transported to the proper galaxy using the world between worlds, but they will be late, but they will save the day. They will be the cavalry just when it looks like Thrawn is going to be totally victorious. That's my guess.
Maybe. I mean, there's also the question, Anakin showed up in ghost form at the end.
Right.
What role does he have to play? Does he help them get back? Is he how they get back through the world beyond, between worlds? Or is there something else that he helps them with?
I think he's just going to be a perv and watch Sabine shower. That's my guess.
Star Wars SVU.
Now, is there anything else that we did not cover? I think we pretty much got it. I'm pretty happy with it. Oh, let's talk about where do you rank Ahsoka in terms of the live action Star Wars series on Disney Plus?
Right below Mandalorian, like right below it.
Or let's break it up into seasons, even. Like,
for me, Mandalorian is all just sort of one thing in my head. So
okay,
so it would be literally like, here's the Mandalorian, here's Ahsoka, Boba Fett is over here somewhere, and then Andor's a little below that for me.
Okay,
But I think I can see I have a weird feeling that Andor is going to rise in the ranks when the second one comes out and when I rewatch the whole thing, because they've said that Andor is ending in season 2 and that it's really one thing. So I think once that's all done,
spoilers, Andor's gonna die eventually.
Yeah,
well, I mean that's true for all of them, but
I know that's the thing. Like I'm wondering, like, what happens? Like, where did Ezra? Like, what happened to Ezra? At the time of the Force Awakens, where is he? Where's Ahsoka? Or where's Hera?
Yes. Well, Hera is in the last battle because you see the ghost and
you see the ghost, but you don't know who's flying it.
That's true. Yeah.
Could be Zeb. Could be Jason. Hera could have lost it in a poker match with Han Solo's
and Sabak,
illegitimate son.
So Carlos says Mando 1, then 2, Andor, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Mando 3.
I forgot Obi-Wan. Yeah, Obi-Wan goes above Boba Fett, but below Ahsoka.
For me, Ahsoka is my favorite by far.
Oh.
Just because I love Rebels so much. From a technical standpoint, I think Andor is the most skillfully made show. And partially because that's the only one that made extensive use of location shooting, whereas most of these are totally green screen or stage shooting.
Right.
But yeah, I love Ahsoka. The first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian are really highly rewatchable for me.
Yeah.
Third season I liked, but not as much as the first 2. Then Obi-Wan, which had its moments, but also had its problems. And then for me, Book of Boba Fett is the worst of the bunch, but there's still some cool stuff there. I think that one gets a harsher rap than it ought to. That crate dragon scene is cool. I mean,
yeah. I like Boba Fett, but I also like Boba Fett because it ties in really nice to the Mandalorian, and Danny Trejo is in it, and
yes,
there's that hilarious, there's that adorable scene of Grogu basically calming down the Rancor, and then just flopping over like Lisa Simpson or Maggie Simpson.
Didn't Danny Trejo's character say that the Night Sisters used to ride the Rancor or something like that? I know
something mentioned, he said there was somebody, and they also said that they imprint on like whoever it is that treats them,
right?
Which is just a funny idea of like a Rancor being like a pet.
I want to see a Night Sister riding around on Rancors. I want to see dozens of them in Ahsoka season 2. That is my wish. One more question. What was in those coffin-like thingies that the Night Sisters were transporting to the known universe? Where you think those are more Night Sisters?
My understanding is that those were copies of Loki on Blu-ray and 4K. They're big on physical media because they're older. I think that they also had copies of the new Metallica album on vinyl, colored vinyl, by the way, yellow. I don't know. I don't. Probably just their stuff.
It's their luggage. They have a lot of shoes that they need.
I don't know. I mean, they might have. We didn't see any stores there, but they might have, brought stuff with them.
Okay.
I mean, don't forget, like, the whole reason that Thrawn didn't just turn around and leave right away is because he's like, we got to load the ship back up.
Right. Presumably because he made a deal with the Night Sisters to bring their shoes back to the known universe. They don't if they're back. They need to take.
There you go. I mean, they're moving. They're not taking this isn't a vacation for them.
Right. They can't leave They can't leave all their stuff on planet Perineum.
Yeah.
Okay, that
The snail people, find it. And
that is fair enough. So that is a wrap for our review of Ahsoka season 1. We both love the show. Me more than Paul, which is weird because I usually like things less than people, but more than Marcus.
Yes.
And that is it for this episode of RPAD TV 3000. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. All my socials are up there. And Paul, before we go, can you please say somehow Palpatine returned?
What?
That is Poe Dameron's famous line, and the only thing that Oscar Isaac is known for, apparently, because they keep replaying it on YouTube.
Wait, isn't he also known for "They fly now"? They fly now.
Yeah, but it's not somehow Palpatine returned. Hey, that was pretty good. Say goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye, Paul.